Hi guys, my name is Olivia Eldridge, and this week I will be going over Article 9, which is Psychology as the Behaviorists Use It, which was written by John Watson. Before I dive too deep into this article, I want to give a brief disclaimer. I work in a field that relies heavily on ABA, and for this reason I am pretty partial towards it. So please keep that in mind while I explain this article. And with no further ado, the article. So Watson begins to explain his field of study, which is behaviorism, and how it is based purely off of experiment. So it's experimental and it is designed to predict and control behavior. He explains that the original basis of psychology, he goes to the backstory of psychology and explains that the original basis is theory. And he explains that because of this, psychology was previously ruled by consciousness. And he argues that we are missing vital points because of this. And there are things that, because we are relying so heavily on consciousness, we just aren't taking into consideration. And for this reason, he says we're missing the bigger picture. And we're missing actual measurable events, which Watson refers to as behavior. Because of this psychology's past at this point, Watson is keen on keeping investigations and observations observable. And what this means is that they are based off of measurable events. And for this reason, things such as introspection or covert behaviors just have no place in psychology. And it's because they're not measurable. You don't have any sort of foundation or basis for them. And he begins to compare psychology to physics and chemistry, and how if something goes wrong in either of these fields, it is due to experimental conditions. And he explains that just like those fields, his field of behaviorism is also measurable. And for this reason, it is reliable. He compares that the measure of behavior to consciousness, and how there seems to be always an out with consciousness. How if somebody is feeling this way and it performs this way, that must mean that they mean this. But if they perform the other way, it could also mean this, but it could also mean this. And he just explains that that is essentially not an adequate explanation. And he goes on to state that in the article, I actually love this quote, so I'm going to quote it. He says, "Feelings are never clear." And I think it's a brilliant example of what he's referring to with the whole consciousness movement, and how he wants behaviorism to trump this movement, because feelings just are not clear. And with behavior, since it's measurable, you're able to essentially get clear outcomes. At the end of the article, Watson begins to explain how his field is still getting its foundations. And I think it's important to note that he would be very happy with how far it has come. But because it's still getting its foundations, there are still things that he needs to convince people of, but that you cannot deny as a reader that there are truths that are there, that consciousness and the field of consciousness and the study of consciousness just does not have. And for this reason, behavior instead of consciousness should be the point of study. And that is essentially what the article is about. It is about the importance of behaviorism and how Watson wanted behaviorism to essentially be the focal point of psychology instead of its contender consciousness.